Okay, there's been an incident on track resulting in loose debris. Fortunately, the marshals have managed to clear it up in time, and there are so far no plans for a safety car. Just ahead, push for the position, Stroll behind, and that's 13 laps now until your pit window's open. Got a lot of spare energy, okay to use your overtake button. And that's us in 10th position. Bottas ahead, less than a second separates you. They're on fresh softs. Norris behind. Okay, the gap is less than a second. They're on fresh softs. The distance to the leader is 8.2 seconds. Pit window opens in 12 laps time. 12 laps. We can now use DRS. DRS now available. Gasly ahead, less than a second separates you. They're on fresh softs. Their tyres are 2 laps old. Okay, we think they've got at least 3 more stops. And the time last lap was a 1 minute 35.8. Good job, you're gaining by a full second a lap at the moment. Okay, you're in the top 10. You made it look so easy. Hamilton ahead. Okay, the gap is less than a second. They're on fresh softs. Their tyres are 3 laps old. The last lap time was a 1:35.9. And you're closing by 4/10 a lap. Keep it going. Alonso's ahead of you. Okay, gap ahead is 0.9 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Their tyres are 5 laps old. Okay, we think they've got at least 3 more stops. Time last lap was a 1:35.5. Okay, so you're gaining by 1/10 a lap. Russell's ahead of you now. Our gap to the car in front is 0.9 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Their tyres are 5 laps old. Okay, we think they've got at least 3 more stops. And the time last lap was a 1:35.4. Okay, so you're gaining by 1/10 a lap. Okay, gap to the car ahead is 2.7 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Their tyres are 6 laps old. Okay, we think they've got at least 3 more stops. Your last lap time was a 1 minute 35.2. Right, you're closing in by around 1.4 seconds a lap. Front is 1.9 seconds. Okay, no issues with tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them. Okay, gap ahead is 1.9 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Their tyres are 9 laps old. Okay, we think they've got at least 3 more stops. Time last lap was a 1:35.2. Okay, so you're gaining by 1/10 a lap. Okay, you're sat in P2. Less than a second separates you. Okay, they're on old softs. Verstappen behind you now. Your pit window is going to open in 3 laps time. Pit window opens in 3 laps. Okay, 47 laps to go. Okay, we're approaching the pit window. You're going to be on softs. Okay, be careful. We think you're going to start losing some tyre grip any time now. In the pits. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 3.8 seconds. Is in for his stop now. And Verstappen's behind. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 12.6 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Their tyres are 2 laps old. Okay, we think they've got at least 3 more stops. And the time last lap was a 1 minute 35.3. Okay, the pit window's open, so let's box this lap, box this lap. Verstappen behind you now, and the gap behind us is 10.6 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Their tyres are 3 laps old. Okay, we think they've got at least 3 more stops. Your last lap time was a 1:33.9.
And away we go, no problems, really smooth. Ferrari, no doubt, very happy with that stop.
You only have to stop once now, 1 stop left. Gap to the car in front is 3.4 seconds. They're on fresh softs. That's Hamilton behind. Okay, the gap behind is 21.3 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Okay, gap to leader, 10.8 seconds. And that's 13 laps now until your pit window's open. 43 laps to go. Gap to the car ahead is 3.3 seconds. Car in front is Carlos, and gap to the car in front is 2.1 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Their tyres are 3 laps old. Okay, we think they've got 2 stops remaining. 2 stops remaining. Time last lap was a 1:34.3. The car behind started to drop back. There's a gap beginning to form. Let's make the most of it. Okay, you've got P3, well done. Okay, gap ahead is 1.0 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. That's Hamilton behind. Our gap behind is 8.3 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Our gap to first place is 8.7 seconds. You've got 10 laps until your pit window opens. Pit window opens in 10 laps. Okay, 40 laps to go now. Verstappen ahead. Our gap to the car in front is 7.4 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Their tyres are 8 laps old. Okay, we think they've got at least 3 more stops. And the time last lap was a 1:34.4. And you're closing by 0.4 a lap. Keep it going. Verstappen stopping now. car behind is Carlos. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 1.7 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Your pit window will be open in 7 laps time. 37 laps to go. And the gap behind us is 3.0 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Their tyres are 9 laps old. Okay, we think they've got 2 stops remaining. 2 stops remaining. Your last lap time was a 1 minute 34.8. Gap to your teammate behind is 3.0 seconds. Carlos is in the pits. Carlos is in for a stop now. And Verstappen's behind. Okay, the gap behind is 10.4 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Their tyres are 3 laps old. Okay, we think they've got 2 stops remaining. 2 stops remaining. Time last lap was a 1:33.6. pack. Verstappen behind you now. Our gap behind is 9.6 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Your pit window is going to open in 3 laps time. Pit window opens in 3 laps. And that's 33 laps to go. Approaching the pit window and you're going to be on mediums. Worry about the tyre condition for now, everything's looking good. Tyre condition still looking good. Verstappen's behind. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 9.5 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Their tyres are 6 laps old. Okay, we think they've got 2 stops remaining. 2 stops remaining. And the time last lap was a 1 minute 33.9. We're going to box this lap and push hard on the in-lap.
and away we go. No problems, really smooth. Ferrari, no doubt, very happy with that stop.
That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. Okay, gap to the car ahead is 6.3 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Hamilton's behind you now, and the gap behind us is 5.9 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Okay, so gap to the leader is 18.5 seconds. Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound. 29 laps to go. In front is 6.0 seconds. Ahead. Okay, gap ahead is 5.8 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Okay, their tyres are 7 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Your last lap time was a 1:34.4. Verstappen's ahead of you. They've just entered the pits. We think they've got one more stop.
30 laps to go. 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 30 laps to go
second place. Our gap to the car in front is 4.9 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. Verstappen behind you now. They're on fresh softs. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. And 26 laps to go now. Okay, so the car behind just come in. They're now on the soft tyre. Soft tyres on the car behind. Okay, you've got P3, well done. It's Verstappen ahead, less than a second separates you. They're on fresh softs. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, the gap behind is 22.4 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. The distance to the leader is 4.7 seconds. That was our last stop, no more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. Okay, you've got 25 laps to go. Check your MFD for a new strategy option. Okay, we've been informed of an incident which has resulted in lots of loose debris on the track. Safety car is being deployed. Okay, copy that. Okay, we can't take you right now. Pit next lap, next lap.
And away we go, and that was a very nice stop. No problems, very smooth for Leclerc.
Okay, stay clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross onto the track. Okay, let's get ready to go racing again. The safety car is in this lap. When the field accelerates, remember there's no overtaking until the timing line. Safety car in this lap. Okay, clear. Okay, some information on Norris. They're retiring from the race. There's been an incident on track, but officials aren't looking to push for safety car right now. Just be careful. P3, you're currently in P3. Okay, the gap is less than a second. They're on fresh mediums. That's Hamilton behind. Okay, the gap is less than a second. Okay, they're on old softs. Okay, gap to leader, 2.1 seconds. Look after these tyres now and you want to finish the race on this compound. 19 laps to go. Verstappen's just put up the fastest lap of the race so far. Okay, the stewards have now enabled DRS. DRS is now online. Verstappen's in the pits. P1. Car behind is Carlos. Less than a second separates you. They're on fresh mediums. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. All right, 16 laps to go. Take each other out. Car in front is Carlos. Okay, the gap is less than a second. They're on fresh mediums. Their tyres are 8 laps old. Okay, the car ahead has front wing damage. Time last lap was a 1 minute 33.9. Carlos is in the pits. Alonso behind you now. Our gap behind is 4.2 seconds. They're on old mediums. Okay, they've done 22 laps on those tyres. We think they've got one more stop. And the time last lap was a 1:34.8. Now. fastest lap is at 1 minute 32.9. Front of the pack. That's Alonso behind. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 7.1 seconds. They're on old mediums. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. Okay, 12 laps to go. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 24.6 seconds. Behind, and the gap behind us is 10.7 seconds. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 12 laps old. Your last lap time was a 1:34.8. Your last lap time was a 1 minute 33.8. Safety car's out. We need you to reduce your pace. It looks like there's a high amount of debris on the track. Be careful. Understood. Stopping this lap. Okay, slow down, slow down. Your delta's negative, which means you're going too fast. Reduce your pace.
And away we go, and that was a very nice stop. No problems, very smooth for Leclerc.
That's P5, you're in P5. Verstappen's ahead of you. They're on fresh mediums. And Schumacher's behind you. Okay, the gap behind is 16.4 seconds. They're on old mediums. Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound. 9 laps to go. Safety car in this lap. Safety car in this lap. Let's make sure those tyres are up to temperature. And remember, there's no overtaking until the timing line. Stay in position until the green flags. Green flag. Battery charge is high, let's use that overtake button a bit more. There's a new strategy available on the MFD. Front wing damage, box, box, box. Okay, no issues with tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them. Ocon ahead, less than a second separates you. They're on old mediums. Magnussen's behind you. Our gap behind is 1.3 seconds. They're on old mediums. Our gap to first place is 1.6 seconds. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. 4 laps remaining. Okay, good work, great pass. Tsunoda's ahead of you. Okay, the gap is less than a second. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 20 laps old. Time last lap was a 1:35.0. 1.2 seconds advantage per lap. Keep going. Gasly's behind you. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 2.5 seconds. They're on old mediums. That was our last stop, no more scheduled pit stops. Let's go 2 laps left. Next time by will be your final lap. Okay, that last lap was a 1 minute 33.2. The fastest lap at this point in time is a 1:32.6. Carlos is in the pits. Driving. That is a race win, my friend. Well done.
Here we are then, a phenomenal Miami Grand Prix, and what a great show of skill from our race winners today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think we'll chalk this one up to a deft touch on the brake pedal. That's allowed them to challenge down the inside into the braking zones, and ultimately, if you do that often enough, you end up winning the race. It was great to watch as well though, wasn't it? Forget strategy, forget tyre management. Who doesn't love a good old-fashioned scrap?
Here come our winners now, a thrilling race and a tremendous effort by Ferrari. Their history is well known, so it's no surprise to fans the world over to see them come out on top once again. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Well, my driver of the day has to be Charles Leclerc. He was unstoppable out on the track today, weaving through the competition with ease.
Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.